We've got another great story to share with you today, an inspiring journey into local government leadership, because that's what we do here on the Halting Winter Podcast. We tell the stories behind the titles, the unique paths into public service, and the moments that shape how these leaders show up, even when the work gets heavy. Every day, local government quietly makes modern life possible, and behind every service is a person doing work that often goes unseen. This is the Halting Winter Podcast, and I'm Seth Winterhalter. Every week, I have the pleasure of sitting down with local government leaders from across the country that remind us where government really lives, locally, doing the work that truly matters. This is the work that builds belonging. Before we hear today's conversation, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Tyler Technologies has been exclusively serving the public sector since 1998, partnering with cities and counties to make their work more manageable, more connected, and more effective. From smarter budgeting to artificial intelligence, Tyler equips local governments with software and solutions that help leaders serve with clarity, efficiency, and impact. You can explore a variety of free resources at tylertech.com/winter. That's tylertech.com/winter. And if today's conversation resonates with you, I want to invite you to check out the Municipal Leadership Development Circle. It's a global community of local government leaders who are committed to growing together, supporting one another, and leading well in the middle of municipal pressure. You can learn more about the MLDC at haltingwinter.com/MLDC. That's haltingwinter.com/MLDC. And now, let's turn to today's conversation. My guest on the podcast today is Tom Modica, city manager in Long Beach, California. I can feel the warmth already. We had summer up here in Washington for like a week, and now it's turned gray again. So I'm going to live vicariously. I can see it in your face that it's warm and sunny and bright. Tom,
it is.
Welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on
Thank you
today.
so much. Looking out the window right now, it's beautiful California weather, so we'll share it with the world.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to dive into Long Beach already. As we talked before we record, just some cool things going on and a lot of things that people don't realize about a place. I think that we think about the beach and sand and just tourism, go hang out at Long Beach. There's so much going on. I can't wait to unpack that. But also, you guys are hosting the ICMA's annual conference, so I want to highlight that and just the party of all parties for city management for the year. We want to make sure people are, I think registration just opened for it recently at the time of this recording. So go get your hotel now because I'm sure they are filling up fast. I think somebody already told me they're having a hard time.
It'll go very fast. Absolutely. We think this is probably going to be one of their largest ones they've ever done. And I think Tampa was 5,200, and that was a record. This could be bigger. So especially with all the cities in California and everyone coming in from other states.
Yeah. Well, we'll dive into Long Beach and why everyone should be there. But man, I want to unpack it's unique when someone has worked for one city predominantly their entire career and risen all the way to the top of the city manager position. And it's going to be, I think, intriguing to hear your story for young people who listen to the podcast who want to know more about local gov and what they might do. I think that's kind of the thing too, I always say I don't think there's an area of interest and passion that we can't find a place for in local gov. It's just that expansive. And so it'll be interesting to hear your unique story and what kind of roles you've been in. But before we get to that, let's do what we do here on the Halting Winter Podcast. Take us back to the beginning. And before we unpack the professional career, let's get to know you as a person. Where were you born and kind of tell us about the childhood that kind of shaped you and led you on this journey?
Yeah, sure. Originally from Tucson, Arizona, and grew up in the desert and in the city. And then my mother came from a really small, kind of a cowboy town outside of Tucson called Wilcox, and so spent time between those two cities, but really grew up in Tucson. And my parents were public school teachers, so not making a lot of money, but had summers off, and being public service minded was a big part of our family. And so some of my first jobs were volunteering for the city of Tucson and then working in Parks and Rec and running, camps for kids of 120 and pretty soon I was supervising those when I turned 18, supervising sites with 4 or 5 staff, some of which were significantly older than me, and having to kind of figure out all those supervisory challenges that I still honestly think about today. And then, I just got the bug for, helping people and for being in a position where we can help those that need it the most. Then, the rest is kind of history. Went to school and spent a little time overseas in Germany, and then came back and got my master's of public administration from Tucson at University of Arizona.
I love it. I love that you mentioned Wilcox. My dad sold our family ranch, grew up on a ranch north of Seattle, and he moved down to Benson. And he was he's like, oh, I'm just going to buy a little 10-acre ranch. Just something small. It's now like 200 acres, and he just can't stop himself. So it's a beautiful. You go through
Benson to get to Wilcox every time. Yeah.
Beautiful country out there. We've had Steve Palkin on. He just retired, Bisbee, and gosh, that guy's awesome. Love him. But yeah, it's a unique area. Tucson and just that surrounding. It's kind of interesting when you have a big city like a Tucson, and then right outside its gates, it's just kind of wilderness, just desert. And it's just a fascinating kind of world to grow up in. As you're growing up and working, like you said, in some of the parks and some of those things, did you really have an awareness of local gov? I asked because I talked to someone in the gym the other day. She's a college kid out of Oregon. And she goes, yeah, I'm working doing these camps for the city. And I go, oh, cool. Have you met the city manager? And she looked at me like deer in the headlights. Like, what's the city manager? So did you have any concept of, what local gov was doing besides just camps and fun?
I did somewhat. So I had an uncle who was a city planner in San Diego. So I kind of knew that kind of concept of it. The term city manager probably came a little bit later, but I had a chance to work as obviously a seasonal non-career, but we always looked up to the civil servants. Like those were the ones that had the full-time job and they got to carry the pager and the cell phone. And wow, that's like the dream, is being that civil servant and stuff. So I started at a much lower level before I even thought about city manager.
I love it. So when you went to undergrad, were you thinking that you were going to have a career in local gov? Is that what your kind of mind was, or was that later?
It came kind of later. So I knew public service was more for me. I basically, was doing a German major and a history minor, and then realized pretty quickly I couldn't be a professional German. That wasn't a job. It wasn't a thing. So I needed to figure out something else. So I spent a little time in Germany. I came back and I took one public administration class as senior year at the very end. And I got to argue about public policy and should we allow smoking in buildings and not. And it was just fun. So I was like, I kind of like that. And I decided to apply for the master's program, and the rest of it kind of took off from there.
I love that you go over to Germany and spend some time. I think these opportunities to kind of get out of our home country and kind of see the world. I think of John Morrow, who's traveled the world when he was young. I think of a couple other guests who've been on who have taught English as a second language in Asia and whatnot. Was there anything when you look back and as those experiences, anything shape you? Anything that was kind of stands out as a memory from that time?
Oh, absolutely. And I still draw on that. I would recommend that to anybody. If you get a chance just to travel outside of of course, your state, but even the country. Like in America, we tend to tour ourselves and we go back and forth and we learn about the states. But go find another completely different culture and see how they do things. And it'll open your eyes about what we assume is how everyone lives and what actually is better and what actually we have better. And I use design ideas all the time from my experiences in Europe and other places. And we bring back things, and a lot of our playgrounds are inspired from things that we saw in Germany that we found ways to bring back here. We're doing World Cup right now. Those big, huge public viewing sites, those are kind of a standard in Germany. You go experience the game with everybody else. How do you replicate that and bring that here? And we're doing that this week in Long Beach. So a lot of benefits from learning from other cultures and their design and their planning and their zoning and how they do things.
So good. So good. And also, like you say, there's the physical aspect of going to a different culture and seeing different things. I wonder too, if I always encourage young people, but all people, it helps you realize there's things in culture that you have they're just default. It's the default setting of the world you live in. And when you go to a different culture, it's like, Oh, wow. This is odd. Well, it's odd just because it's not odd to them. They're totally raised in that. And you're odd. So it always helps you, I think, especially for leaders, to help with what are you taking for granted in your organizational culture that you just don't realize that maybe, new employees come in and, what's the kind of wow, what's kind of different here? What's expected? And so, travel can do that. So talk about you do the MPA program at the University of Arizona. Did you do an internship during that program?
I did. I got to be in the city of Tucson city manager office for, I think it was probably only 6 weeks, but it was pretty formative for me. It was, one summer just kind of hanging out and being able to ask the city manager all kinds of questions. I formed lifelong relationships with the city manager, who's Jim Keene. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him, but he's kind of a legend out here in California. He was one of those professional fix-it managers that moved around every 3 to 4 years and went different places and was really a change agent. He ran CSAC as well. Mike Letcher, who was the deputy, he has gone on to do all kinds of different things and mentoring and working at the University of Arizona. So a number of those people, Julie Edmond Mares, she's moved up and she's a city manager, assistant city manager in California now too. So it was formative for me is to kind of experience that. And I got the bug there. So that was like, wow, that could be really cool.
I love that. It's one of the things I point out for young people, whether you're in high school thinking about what you don't want to do, or even especially in college, these internship opportunities, or even the part-time jobs, or even the summer jobs, to go into local gov and kind of see how it works. I think you can catch the bug. And that's also maybe speak to the MPA, because I think there might be some students who go, man, an MPA, more book work. I think one of the things of the MPA program is it is pretty experiential. They want you to go experience local gov. And so don't think that you're going to be overwhelmed with just like theses and writing. There's also experience that I think that's what we want to get you into, the mission of local gov.
And the master's really is like the practical tools you need to excel. Like if you're looking to be like an upper level manager, like having an MPA or an MPP or a master in urban planning is really essential. Like it is kind of like the technical handbook. Not to say everything you learn there is 100% applicable to every situation, but you're learning to think, you're learning how to use certain tools. You're learning, like how to ask good questions and how to present solutions.
So good. So from when you graduate with the MPA, is it straight to Long Beach? How did that happen?
Yeah. So it was the most terrible timing to find a job, at least during that time. So I graduated basically in the spring of 2022. So about 6 months after the world changed with the September 11th terrorist attack. So nobody was hiring. Everybody's economy was in shambles. Local government's revenue was way, way down. We were moving into recession. So I had a chance to go back to DC and the Presidential Management Fellowship. And I thought that'd be interesting. I got there and I knew within 10 seconds that federal government wasn't for me. It just seemed so far removed from the people. Like you could do good work there, but I'd end up being the assistant to the undersecretary of the secretary. And what human connection are you going to have? You might have an impact on a larger level, but I wanted more of that direct community impact. So I realized that wasn't a path for me. I applied to all kinds of different programs throughout to anywhere I could find a job opening. And the Long Beach Management Assistant Program was hiring. So we have a program, it's in its 40-something year right now, where it is one of the longest standing programs where it hires people out of their masters and puts them in a rotation in the manager's office, in the budget office, and then in 2 other departments. And you get to experience what it's like to be a high-level manager as basically an entry-level person. So it's an amazing experience to anyone that's listening. We hire every year, even when we're in budget challenges. And it's a wonderful experience. And a lot of my top managers have now come out of that program. They've gone on to be either city managers or assistants or deputy directors and stuff, or they're still with us.
Fascinating program. I love that. And so you start in that program, and then walk us through then you become an acting assistant to the city manager, a special assistant, manager of government affairs. That sounds fascinating. Kind of walk us through all these kind of positions and help us get an eye of your journey, but also kind of what work there is to do in local gov.
Yeah. So again, I got hired right when there was a financial crisis, and I got there, and 3 months later, the city manager was dismissed. Long Beach has a long history of very long-standing city managers. So it's not a city that goes through city managers very quickly normally. And so, but this particular city manager was facing a huge fiscal cliff, and the council wasn't reacting well to the way that he was proposing to address it, which really was more like, let's use all of reserves and try to figure it out next year. So they wanted a more comprehensive approach. So they brought on the acting city manager or assistant city manager to be the acting. And he goes, I've got now, basically 1 year to figure out how to do a 3-year plan for reducing our government by about 30%. So it was about a 34% reduction in the general fund. And so I was there, they pulled together all these department directors to decide like what all these ideas could be. And I got to be in the room. I got to be the one organizing them. I got to be the one, basically putting them all in a database, doing the summaries, taking the notes. And so I tell young people all the time, when you get those opportunities, seize them, say yes, like get in the room, because you're going to be able to listen. You're going to be able to compile. You're going to be able to write all that stuff because everyone else is too busy. Your mark will be in organizing and putting it on. And a lot of your words are going to stay in that final work product. So that was an amazing opportunity to help craft this 3-year plan and then to actually go implement it and try to make those reductions and understand how the plan works with the implementation.
So fascinating. And I'll just we'll go forward and then we'll come back. But you become city manager in April 2020. And so for anyone living under a rock, that is like a month after the pandemic goes full bore. And so to have done that, to have gone through such a significant wow moment, right? I'm sure, stressful, all the kind of the negatives. And then now when you become city manager, to have to go through something that no one knew. No one knew what in the world was going to go on. We're just kind of like, how do you go? And I'm sure things tightened up. Maybe even speak to, because sometimes I was talking the other day to someone about how comfort is kind of the enemy of growth and of creativity. And, we all want good times, but it's the hard times that actually grow us and prepare us for future hardships or even future growth. Maybe speak to that. Did you was there anything in the back of your mind that pulled back to the way back when you were going through the pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is when I think a lot of creativity and people can shine, when you're under pressure. So when you've got to perform, when you've got to get those tough challenges addressed. So personally, that's how I'm built. I work much better under stress than I do when I have all the time in the world. So if for some reason you have a day where all the meetings get canceled, I find myself feeling much less productive than on the days where I've got 15 meetings and the phone's ringing. I got a mayor and a council member, a department director. Like that is just how I'm built, is like that type of constant change and movement and stuff. So I do well under those situations, at least I feel I do. And when I became manager, I was actually the acting manager in September of 2019. The former manager was looking for the right time to retire when there wasn't some new crisis brewing right behind the next door and stuff. So he said, this is my time. I become acting. And it was a glorious 6 months where we were doing well with finances. We were doing more construction than we'd done before. Things were going, and then COVID hit. And we were in a special role during COVID in that we actually were the health jurisdiction that makes the decisions. We have a doctor on staff that then makes the decisions. So in most areas, it was your county. In Long Beach, it's the Long Beach city. So we were both making the health decisions and leading our organization through it. So it was a fascinating time. And we were kind of seen as a national model for like vaccine rollout and recovery. So that was an amazing time to be a part of, but definitely one of the most difficult.
Let's go back. You become manager of government affairs and then director of government affairs and strategic initiatives, which you kind of do for almost a decade. Tell us about that. It sounds like an interesting role. Government affairs sounds like something at the state, federal level.
Yeah. So a lot of my career, and for anyone young listening, was finding acting assignments. So I was kind of like the acting actor. I was put into a whole bunch of different things where someone said, hey, can Tom do that? Someone just left. Let's have Tom go in there for 6 months. And if you ever get those opportunities, jump at them. I know they're scary. I felt it myself where you're like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not that person. And a city manager once told me, I don't need you to be him. I need you to be you. So you're going to do the job in the way that you're going to do it. And so say yes to those, jump in, you can do it, figure it out, and then take that path, like take that assignment in the path you want it to go. So the person before me doing government affairs, they were a very much of a relationship person. All their stuff was based on who I know, who I can talk to, who I've been to an event with. That wasn't my style. I was analytical. I was numbers. I was planning and projections and stuff. And so I took it in more of an analytic route. And so we ended up using that position to get lots and lots of federal funding at the time, and state funding, and millions of dollars for projects. And then kept kind of growing that. And then I saw a big need in our city. We weren't really doing public affairs very much. We had one position for the entire city, and it was just putting out like a press release a week and stuff. So I offered to take that on, be acting in that area too, and then kind of grow our communication side, which has grown dramatically over the past 10 years.
Maybe talk about for just a second, because you mentioned grant funding. And I think it's one of the things that, as a resident, you can complain about taxes, but a local government isn't just always, it's yes, that you have to fund all these services, but so much of that is also in the procurement of grants. Maybe talk about what that looks like for a local government, how some of the big infrastructure projects would be impossible without grant money, and what it even looks like. What's that process even like?
Almost any project, any major project you're doing is going to be hard to fund with local government dollars alone. So it's always going to be a blend of different funding sources. But that's interesting because no one grant is going to give you enough money to do it either. So you have to go out and find, a state program. You need to find a county program, a federal program. You've got to match them against each other. You got to make sure that you've got council authority to be signing on the dotted line. I can make that match. You better be able to make that match because that's a legal commitment. So you've kind of got to get all these ducks in a row in order to get some of these major projects built. And it's a skill. And so some of it are direct grant writing. Some of it is more on the political side, like through an earmark or through a congressional action or a state action. So it is a very interesting part to learn, especially for local managers, because we're not really in the politics of that. Like, on our side, it's more the administration side. Mayor might have more of the political, relationships. But for us, it's like, how do we find the administrative arguments of why this project's important and make that resonate and show results for the government that has given you those funds.
One thing I've learned from hosting hundreds of conversations with local government leaders is this: the challenges never stop changing. So many conversations seem to come back to the same question. How do you keep moving your community forward when there's never enough time, money, people, or certainty? You're always looking for ways to work smarter, make better decisions with limited resources, and prepare for what's coming next, all while still delivering the services your residents count on every day. That is why I'm grateful for partners like Tyler Technologies. Tyler has put together 3 free ebooks specifically for local government leaders that I think are well worth your time. One explores how your team can use AI to eliminate repetitive work and improve your efficiency. Another highlights how cloud technology can help modernize your operations. And the third focuses on how your organization can remain resilient, even when things don't go according to plan. You can download all 3 ebooks for free, along with several other resources, all at tylertech.com/winter. Again, tylertech.com/winter. And if you're going to be attending the NACO annual conference, it's in New Orleans this July. Stop by booth number 231 and connect with the Tyler team. They would love to learn more about your community and the unique challenges that you are facing. While you're there, if you'd like to see how AI is being used in an actual government setting, make sure to attend the Technology Innovation Forum. It's featuring Fulton County and Tyler Technologies. You're going to hear how they are putting these tools to work in their day-to-day operations and what they're learning along the way. To learn more about AI that works to make your county or your city government far more efficient, visit tylertech.com/winter. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, I think of Austin Blee, city manager in Jersey Village, Texas, and his big thing is grants. He tries to do a lot of help with helping city managers understand grants because they're so vital, especially in smaller cities. But there's also there's procuring the grant, but then people don't realize all the work the paperwork that you have to do to live up to that grant. Like, it's not like there's just somebody with a pot of gold just throwing it out at you. There's a lot of, reporting that has to be done to make sure, right, that money's going to the right places, and there's accountability. And so that's where, again, it comes. I say that to say there's a reason do we need this many people working for the city? There's a lot of work that has to be done. Like, again, in grants, something we'd probably never think about.
And there's a lot of administrative work that has to be done that needs good people that understand local government and are passionate to make sure you hit all those deadlines, all those reporting requirements. And by the way, the city manager normally is the one signing under penalty of perjury that we have done all the things that person says that they're doing. So it is incredibly important to get somebody good that knows how to do that and to follow through and to hit all those commitments.
Yeah, so good. It says on their strategic initiatives. What is that? Is that internal? Is that external? What is that? Is that just whatever falls under the plate?
No, that's kind of a funny story. So the title I wanted at the time was Deputy City Manager, and I had angled for that, but that wasn't in the cards. There was only one Deputy City Manager, and for political reasons, they couldn't add a second. So the city manager told me at the time, you can have whatever title you want, but you can't be a Deputy City Manager. So I thought I'd create something fun and great that, Director of Government Affairs and Strategic Initiatives, because I was doing all the kind of bigger picture thinking, the building the communication strategy, the trying to figure out where we're headed and create more of a strategic planning process. And so I created this title that was so long, no one could ever say it. So that probably wasn't the best decision I ever made, but it's something to think about. You got to be able to say what your title is too, even if it looks good on paper.
That's right. Well, you become the deputy city manager in 2013. Talk to us about when in the story, when did you know when you got to Long Beach that one day you wanted to be a city manager, or did that unfold somewhere along that journey?
It unfolded. It was kind of like, I always knew that was, something of interest. So I'll actually go way back to a story back from Tucson with Jim Keene. So one day, Jim asked me, he goes, Tom, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I go, well, Mr. City Manager, sir, I want to be you. And he goes, let me tell you a story. He goes, I started this job doing the most basic of city assignments. Whose sign is on whose property? And then I become like a high-level analyst, and I'm doing some great program analysis. And then I become a manager, and then I'm a department director, and I'm dealing with all this stuff in the department. And then I become the assistant city manager, and I'm dealing with everything: the labor, the building, the construction, the infrastructure, the public safety, the negotiations. And then I become the city manager, and I'm dealing with whose sign is on whose property. He goes, you don't want to be me. You want to be the assistant city manager. So we joke about that. I like, especially city managers, most will see, some truth in that is you sometimes get to that point in the organization. Now you're dealing really with the council and you're meeting their needs. And sometimes it is helping a resident figure out whose sign is on whose property and figuring out these things that really matter to your council. But also, trying to then, reserve time to be able to do some of those really big things. So yeah, I was kind of on the path towards ACM and thought that was great for me. And then the city manager retired sooner than I thought. He had been there a long time, but it would have been nicer to get a little bit closer. I was relatively young when I came into the acting and had to make some soul searching. And is this the right time for me? Knowing that there's more risk when you're a city manager and you couldn't be gone within, any Tuesday and stuff. So, anyway, I love the city manager role. I love the time as my ACM. I think that's one of the best roles in all of local government, the assistant city manager, or sometimes it's called deputy city manager in your city. But you can still have a lot of fun in the city manager role. You just got to make time to also do the big stuff that you are passionate about and work with your team.
So good. I want to dive into that specifically in the city manager role. But like you said, the ACM it seems like it's a fantastic role. Everyone says, man, the ACM is such a good role. Maybe talk about that. What makes that role so good? But also, how do we, I am nervous as I travel the country, keynote speaking at conferences and engaging with cities, that because maybe the city manager role does have so much heat, that we've got the ACMs aren't, we kind of almost have a hole for city managers because it's like, dude, I do not want that. And we get it. There's risk. There's a lot, it is a different role, but how can we maybe encourage? So shine the light on why the ACM is a fun role, what it does, but also how can we encourage maybe some ACMs step into the CM role?
Yeah. So the ACM, and again, every city's structured differently, but normally that's your number 2 position. You're kind of like a chief operating officer, and you get to be the wide angle lens. You get to see everything in the entire city, and you get to see the connections and help make those connections that you think would be easy. But sometimes you do get into silos. Police says, I do these things, and code says, I do these things, and you're there to solve the problem. And you're like, if we put those components together, that's how we're going to solve that problem. And so the ACM has a lot of authority to direct things, and to help make those connections and put those together. They also, they'll deal with council members and work with council members. And I got a wonderful council, but it takes a lot of work. And so an ACM doesn't really do the briefings with the council or see any of that part of it. They get to really just work internally normally and under the direction of the manager, who's taking direction from the mayor and council. So you are a little bit more protected from some of the politics and some of the things that go on to make all the council actions work and stuff. It's wonderful. But if you're an ACM, you can be a CM. Like, you just got to learn the rest of those skills. You got to learn to have a thick skin. You can't have a big ego. I hire really humble people. You got to be humble in this job. And that's a big part for me, is being a humble public servant. And it's all about problem solving. It's all about, helping people's lives get a little bit better every single day. So don't be afraid of that. If you're an ACM, there's lots of ways out there to get help. There's mentoring groups. There's even, in our group, there's a California nonprofit of managers that teach you kind of a boot camp. What's it going to be like once you're a city manager? So thanks to all those that invest in that time to grow our next future of city managers.
So good. We had Ken Striplin on, who Santa Clarita. Love Ken and what he's doing. Yeah. In fact, we're going to have his predecessor, the other Ken, on. We're doing a podcast next week. But they talk about, both of them, just culture. And that's one of, I had Kevin Phelps on, a recently retired city manager in Glendale, Arizona. Yep. And I love Kevin. And he's just like, he said, I thought, illuminated my eyes. He goes, I'm the CEO of the city, but I'm really the CCO. I am the chief culture officer. I have to make sure I hire the best of the best. And then I make sure that we collaborate and we know how to, what we're focused on in the vision. What does that look like for you? How engaged are you? Again, city managers have different, some are data centered, some are, what does culture look like for you? What do you think is your sweet spot as you lead Long Beach now in the CM position?
Yeah. So I think I'm a blend of that. So I definitely agree that culture is what you've got to focus on internally in the organization. So you've got to have some vision for your employees. You've got to have some vision external as well. In some of our cities, that sometimes gets transferred a little bit more to a mayor and council on the vision side, but the manager's got to be a big part of that as well, because you're the operating and implementing, force that's going to make that vision actually be real and come to reality. But yeah, I think communication is one of the biggest things you need to be as a city manager. I'm a big believer in getting to all 6,000 of our employees, like, what's going on? Like, they have to be ambassadors, and some of it's fun and light, and some of it's serious. And they need to hear from you. So that was a big part for me, is like, not shying away. I think employees do so much better when they understand the why, not just to be told what to do, but why they're doing it. So that just gets you so much better of like buy-in. Otherwise you get malicious compliance, and employees will do things to keep their job when you tell them they have to do it, but they're not going to do it with passion unless they really understand the culture and the mission and why we're doing those things. So I kind of lean into that a lot. And then me personally, I like the what it takes to make government work. So I'm really interested in that. So I ask a lot of questions. I hire really smart people and really talented people. But I also believe in that, I'm going to ask a lot of questions of you. And those are the ways to test whether that house of cards that you built is a solid house, or whether it's going to fall apart once you ask one or two questions. And so it's kind of like a trust but verify system. Like, I trust you, go out and do your thing, but just know there's going to be a lot of questions to make sure we've thought of the major things it's going to take to keep moving that forward. And and I hope they ask questions of their team, and they kind of do that culture and that leadership, and that trickles down, the excitement for local government and the possibility of what we can do.
It's so good. I think one of the things that we maybe to encourage or to give, just go a little deeper for those city managers listening. How do you, it's so important about the why and not just the what. I thought that's a great point. How do you do that, especially in Long Beach when you have so many employees? I think, it's easier I think of Bill Wagner in Arcola, Illinois, and, a smaller city, and they're all kind of rubbing shoulders in the same office. There's room there to kind of just do that organically and naturally. with you, how many employees does City of Long Beach have?
Yeah, we have about 6,500 employees. About 90% work for the city manager, and the others work for other groups and stuff. So, but yeah, so it's a large workforce. Obviously, we do things like we try to get town halls from time to time. But yeah, getting written communication is probably the best way to get to most people. But it's also stopping and having those conversations on the street. So with 6,000 people, you're not going to know everyone's name. They know you, but you may not always know them. One of my best compliments I get is I'll stop a police officer on the street or someone else. I'll shake their hand. And I go, "Hi, I'm Tom." And they go, "Oh, you're that guy that emails me." Like, "I'll take it." I'm like, "Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, that's me. That's the guy who's bombarding you with information all the time." So you're reading it and then you have a personal connection and discussion. And then they can see the face behind the guy who emails you and get to ask them, "What's going on out here? And how are you doing? And, what do you think's going on? And what questions are you getting? And how's your job going?" That kind of stuff. So it's both those interactions that you have, but it's, also arming them with information, the good and the bad, the things that they're going to get asked about that I need them to know.
I have this unique pleasure, this unique opportunity to meet with thousands of local government leaders from across the nation every year through conferences and workshops and the podcast. Just these interviews, these conversations are just so insightful. And one of the things I have learned about local government leaders is this: the best leaders are lifelong learners. Not because they have all the answers. It's because they understand that leadership, that journey of leadership, is never finished. Every challenge, every difficult conversation, every budget season, every organizational change or disruption is another opportunity to grow. That's why this summer we're doing something different inside the Municipal Leadership Development Circle. We're launching a special summer series called Stories That Shape Leaders. You know that every week I take a best-selling book, usually a business book, and we break down its insights and apply them to local gov. This summer, we're taking biographies, memoirs, timeless leadership books that don't necessarily fall into those typical business, culture, strategy kind of genre. And we're going to explore the lives, the decisions, the failures, challenges, the lessons of leaders who navigated incredible adversity, who had to build trust when hope was fleeting, who inspired others not only to dream, but to take action, and who left a lasting impact. Leadership isn't shaped just through strategies and frameworks alone. It is shaped through stories. Stories that challenge assumptions, stories that expand our perspective, stories that help us become the leaders our communities need us to be. When you join the MLDC, you unlock the entire summer series, but you unlock even more. You unlock the weekly leadership content, the live mastermind sessions, the nationwide community of local government leaders, and all the MLDC resources, not just for the summer, but for the rest of 2026. If you are looking for a place to continue growing this summer while connecting with leaders who understand the unique challenges of local government, I would love to invite you to join us. Learn more at haltingwinter.com/MLDC or simply use the link in the show notes. Now, back to the conversation. So good. Communication so key. And it's one of the things in the work of project and the work of things coming at us, we can just be reactive. It's that proactivity that actually keeps, like you say, people informed. Because whether it's your council or whether it's, the people on the street engaging with people, residents, et cetera, they don't want to feel stupid because they don't know. And so, and it's kind of the issue of leadership is we can go, man, I knew, it's all I dealt with. But it's like, but that didn't transcend down the layers of the organization.
And I tell them all the time, you could do the best program in the entire world, but if nobody knows about it, it's like it doesn't happen. So if you don't communicate about it, it didn't happen. So you have to not only do the work, you have to communicate the work. And all of us can be better communicators. So it's not the PIO's role to tell, only like that guy does communication, I just do the work. Like you need to be able to be practiced about telling the story of what you do.
So good. I want to get to Long Beach and all that's going on there, but I want to ask you one more question. As you come into the city manager role, you said you kind of had the 6 months sweet spot honeymoon. All things are going good. Then the pandemic happens. Tell us about for you, what was it like being in that role for the first time that was maybe exciting, what was eye-opening, maybe what was hard, challenging? What was your experience to kind of give us a view of why that role is so unique?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's always a little scary. So there's some people that say, I've never had imposter syndrome. I don't believe that. I think everyone's felt that way at some point where it's like, gosh, can I really do this? And that's okay. That's like the part of your consciousness that's trying to protect you a little bit, but you got to listen to that and then keep pushing forward. So yes, you can do it. Absolutely. We all get tested when we step into new situations, and you have a lot of help out there. So, call former city managers, call your city managers in your other cities, call your best friend, like get input and stuff. I was really fortunate. I had a city manager who was very, very supportive and was really letting me do a lot of the city manager type stuff, even though I was the ACM. So, he was very interested in culture and like council relations. And so I was doing a lot of the internal running the city and very practiced with all those things for about 5 years before I stepped into the chair. So it was a fairly smooth transition, but it's different. There's no net. Like when you're at the ACM, you're like, oh, okay, well, thank goodness the CM's back, and that can be his issue again. But you are responsible, and it's kind of cliche, but yeah, the buck stops with you. So even if somebody you've never met in your organization does something inappropriate, you're responsible for that. Like you were the one that hired them, or you're the one that set up the protocols that said how they're supposed to do their work. And then you have to take responsibility for that, even though you probably didn't have anything directly to do with it. That's the job. And so I believe in a lot of humility in that. You need to own those. You need to say, I'm sorry, and learn how to say, that did not go the way we expected, and we will get better and identify the problem, fix it, and move on. So, but yeah, it's a little scary when you first do it. It gets easier every year. But and some things you'll be really slow at in the beginning as you try to figure it out. And later, those things will be very quick as you work on new tasks that, get handed to you.
So good. I think it's such a great point. You've mentioned already just being humble. And I think that, like you said, everyone will face imposter syndrome. The difference is will it paralyze you, or will it help keep you in a humble place to continue to walk forward? And so such a great point.
And you have to be able to laugh at yourself. I tell it all the time. Like, if you can't laugh at yourself, you got to take the job seriously, but don't take yourself so seriously. Like, we normally ask questions, of like, hey, tell me about a time where things didn't go as planned. And you'd be amazed how many people say nothing, everything, always perfect. I'm great at everything. It's like, you got to have that humbleness of saying, yeah, I screwed up. And boy, did I screw up, and laugh at that and say, but here's what I learned from it. And here's how I grew. Like, that is how we get growth and stuff in this organization. So, or in this profession.
So good. Let's dive into Long Beach. You correct me where I'm wrong. I think it's about 450,000 plus in population. Is seventh most populous city in California, the second in Los Angeles. And that's why I think maybe for the national audience, you think of Long Beach. Maybe you've heard of Long Beach. We're not talking about Long Beach in Washington. We're talking about Long Beach, California. And it is usually you think, tourism and the beach, surfing, but like, this is a huge city, giant city, and it's got a lot. The port of Long Beach is the second busiest container port in the U.S. Giant things. California State University. Tell us about Long Beach. Give the national audience a perspective of really this almost a country going on.
Yeah, Long Beach is an awesome place. So if you were to pick us up and put us anywhere else in the United States, in 45 of those states, we're the largest city or the second largest city. So we're bigger than Minneapolis. We're bigger than Miami, bigger than Pittsburgh. But, you don't always think of Long Beach as like a big, large city because it's in the shadow of Los Angeles and of this region of 10 million people. There's 88 cities in LA County and another 44 cities in Orange County, and Long Beach is right in the middle of those. So we're the second largest city here. It's LA and then Long Beach. But yeah, it's one that we continue to work on, letting people know our story and who we are. We're incredibly compact and dense. So the city I came from, Tucson, is about the same population. They're now over 500,000, but they're in a 221 square miles. We're 51 square miles. So we are the same city in 4 times less space. So you actually have a lot of cool interactions, and it feels like a small town because you are constantly bumping into people in the street because there's like so much density and so much going on. We're a very progressive city. We're very big on climate, on environmental, on biking, on trade, on growth and development. We're not an anti-growth city. We believe that, we want to grow our housing. We're actually the most affordable housing. We wanted to be the most affordable beach city in our region. We're actually the most affordable city right now in our region because we're doing a lot of housing growth and affordable housing growth all the way through, all the different income levels. We're also big in space. So we are becoming what we call Space Beach, and we are growing thousands and thousands of jobs in aerospace and building space stations and building rockets. So that's been a really cool new development for us over the last 10 years. And we're a real big city for entertainment, tourism, and we're going to be hosting, we're the largest venue city of the Olympics in 2028. So we'll be hosting 11 sports plus 7 Paralympic sports. So 18 sports total and 2 million ticketed people coming to Long Beach.
That is crazy. I was going to have, we're still working on it. Who is it? It's the city manager up in California where they had the Super Bowl, and just talk about, the dynamic of all that goes on with the Super Bowl. Dude, the Olympics is, you think the World Cup even, but the Olympics, that's crazy. And talk to us about, well, first off, let me just say, this is why local government is so cool. You just mentioned housing. You mentioned commercial, right? Business development. You mentioned an event center like that. Those are 3 radically different things. And again, I think most people just think that's all private sector. That's just, you never think that local government is this agent that plays such a key part in all that together. Because at the end of the day, you can't just, any one of those could just dwarf your place, right? You could just focus on just housing or just entertainment or just commercial. Talk to us about just the important role that local gov actually is playing in that, and the demand even to how in the world does local gov figure out how to do the Olympics and still keep everything else running?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the task of, we plan, the city, basically. You're not always building the actual construction of, space stations, but you create the tools and the environment and the place and the workers and all those types of things that allows that investment to actually happen. So, there's a lot of things you can get involved in government to be able to influence that. And we're also right now planning our future for, basically 2050. What is our waterfront going to look like? How are we going to adapt and actually change the skyline and change the coastal area to look differently once we're all gone from these positions a long time in the future. Back to the Olympics. The Olympics is an event unlike itself. We're a big event city. We do huge events every year. We do the Long Beach Grand Prix, the largest street race in America. But nobody's done an Olympics before, unless that's your profession. To give a sense of the scale of the Olympics in terms of Super Bowls, we all know how big a Super Bowl is. The Olympics is 7 Super Bowls a day for 16 days. That is the economic impact of a Super Bowl or of an Olympics. And then the Paralympics, and this surprises most people, is 5 Super Bowls a day for 14 days. So the Paralympics, which is separate than the Olympics, is a separate discipline and a separate sport and event, is almost as big as the Olympics in terms of economic impact. And we're really leaning into that as a city that really embraces diversity and embraces accessibility.
We had, I remember when, we just had where was the Olympics, wherever it was just at, they talked about the volunteers for it. And so I saw the thing for volunteer. I thought, oh man, that'd be so cool to go volunteer. But again, that's all these logistics. Like, where do you house these people? Just the housing for the Olympics, I'm sure, is just insane. So yeah. Man, how cool to be a part of that. Talk to us about, when we're talking about conferences, the ICMA is going to have its annual conference there, California Dreamin', October 17th through the 21st. That's going to be at the Long Beach Convention and Entertainment Center. Talk about the importance of these organizations, whether that's the ICMA on a national level. We've got Cal ICMA, you've got the MMASC, MMANC in California. Talk about the importance, especially for a city manager, but for all, local government leaders, but the city manager, there's only one of you. Like, it's not like you can go down to the Chamber of Commerce luncheon and hang out and vent to, other city managers. It's just you. What's what do you think is the reason and the how strongly is it to be a part of these associations for both professional growth, but also just personal health?
Absolutely. So it can be a little lonely at the top. And so you have lots of people you work with and they're all wonderful, but at the end, you're the boss and you're responsible, for everything that they're doing. There is a lot of value in having a network of people who've been through that. And so I always try to do that. And especially in, new city managers that come in, give them a call and say, hey, if you ever need anything, we're here, like to bounce ideas off of. We're incredibly honored and excited to welcome people to Long Beach for ICMA. ICMA has not been in California for 15 years. And this is the first time it's ever been in Long Beach. So it is a huge conference. It is a massive undertaking. We've got a team of over 80 people, and not all that work for the city of Long Beach. Some are others that just love the profession and work in other California cities who are helping to plan all this on the city side, in addition to, of course, all the great talented team at ICMA. And really trying to allow those experiences to happen both at the conference, but also at night. And I love how ICMA will want to have a reception and get all together, and the coastal cities and the east cities and the west cities, and you see all these people come together and form relationships. We have a group for the really large city managers that get together twice a year. And so it'll be a chance to connect with them and then also learn from small cities as well. Small cities can learn from big cities. Big cities can absolutely learn from small cities. So having those connections and that time to have, those personal moments and share ideas. And the last thing I'll say on that is, none of us have a monopoly on the best ideas. Like, we're all cities, so we should borrow from each other. I've borrowed all kinds of stuff from places I've traveled to and make it your own and bring it into your city and also help tell your story to others.
I think that's why I love this podcast. And it's why I love local gov is unique from the private sector where there's high competition, high secrecy. Everyone's looking for the edge. In the public, you're not in competition. It's like, let's do it. Let's all be great. Let's make these communities awesome. And so there is a cooler, having the joy of speaking at a lot of state associations. There's just a different vibe you get than a public sector or a private sector conference, I find. And it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, my last question then is the one I always close with is just, work-life balance. Probably my featured keynote is called Work-Life Balance is BS. There's no such thing as balance. There's just intention. And specifically in a city manager role, you sense this now, there's long meetings at night, there's weekends, there's kind of just being on the clock. I was a pastor for a while, and I think that pastor life, I didn't get there was no moment where I could just be Seth. Even in my backyard, it's like my neighbors, he sees pastor. And so I think that city manager, like you said, from you started talking about signs and now you're the city manager and it can be someone's sign in my yard. So what is that like? How do you make sure that you have boundaries? How do you make sure, even in the communications with elected staff, how have you found some health in making sure that Tom as a person is healthy and whole and can bring his best to the job?
Yeah. I think it is a lot about setting that culture and doing it with your team and then also doing it with your council. So I'm very fortunate. My council is very, very supportive of that. They're telling me, Tom, you got to go on vacation. Like it's good. You need to go so that, the ACM can step up and have that experience to be city manager for a week, for 2 weeks. So I'm big with that. I'm also let them know, hey, if you need me, I'll be there. Like, I'm not one that says I'm only available 8 to 5. Like, that is not going to work. If that's what you're looking for, you're probably not in the right profession. You got to get energy out of that. Like, so you've got to understand that, your phone will ring, but also set some boundaries and stuff. So I've been able to tell council, hey, can I call you in an hour after the kids have gone to bed so they don't see me like with a phone in my ear when I'm putting them to bed and stuff? Those are important. So like your kids are going to remember those things. So where you can, work, just be honest and say, hey, can I call you in an hour? Can this person help you right now? I'm going to be out. So I'm big on our organization that I want you to take your vacation time. We don't really do vacation cash outs because that's not what it's there for, to make you more money. It's there to make you healthy. So you need to take your time. I demonstrate that and I tell the organization I'm leaving for 2 weeks and I'm handing the reins over to my assistant, and she's going to grow because of that, because she's going to spend 2 weeks being the city manager. And if I can do it, you can do it. So I do believe in a lot of that. I also live in the city that I work in. So I can do that in a large city. You're not always anonymous. People will stop you at Trader Joe's and ask you about your pothole and stuff. So you take a little bit of that with grace, but sometimes it's like, hey, I'm here, picking out a cucumber with my family. Can we talk about this next week, kind of a thing? So you got to establish some boundaries, but yeah, where you can, a lot of people just, they want to know what's going on in the city. And so yeah, you need to love what you do. So if you find yourself like dreading having to make a phone call on a Friday or a Saturday, then yeah, find something that really brings you joy and stuff. So, but so it's not a complete balance. You're not going to turn everything off, but also have a good, strong team that can support you, that you can say, you know what, I need this day I'm off because I'm doing something really important with my family. Here's who can help you.
I love
that culture.
I love that you brought up that point that when you go, one of the benefits of you going on vacation is someone gets to step up. And I talk about this, I've been one of my keynotes on sabbaticals and how, even a more extended time away so that the entire organization feels, and what can happen sometimes for the leader who feels burnt out, not because the work is maybe frustrating, but because they're just carrying too much. I think that's one of the areas of a city manager can be wearing too many hats. And one of the best things you can do is step back and make those others have to step up to start wearing some of those hats. When you come back, you get to put on some new hats. And so always thinking, there's more strategy than just vacationing because, you're dead tired. So great point.
Yep. You got to let others grow as well. So, and they won't if you're always there. If you're always there, even if you say, hey, it's okay, it's your decision, you're always the safety net. So, they'll come and they'll ask you questions. So there's a lot of growth that happens when you're not there. And of course, you're there if they really need your help we never put people in a position where they're going to absolutely fail. They're going to fail a little. That's okay. We learn from failure. We learn from growth, but a good manager and a good mentor is not going to let you completely fail. But they're going to let you experience some discomfort, and that's important.
I love it. So many good insights, Tom. I so appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, just come visit Long Beach in 2028 as we experience the Olympics. Come visit us in 2026 for ICMA. We just got done with U.S. Conference of Mayors. That was a blast being able to show off our city, and we learned a lot. We're going to put on a fantastic conference in October. Can't wait to show off our city. And hopefully you learned a little bit about Long Beach. And we sometimes get this Long Beach, I never knew. And I'm working. One of my big passions for the Olympics is not what happens during the 2 weeks, but what happens after that. So how do we use this moment to position our city so that people know about our community, what we have to offer, how special it is, and help grow us into the future. So hopefully you can come get a little bit of that Long Beach spirit in October. And if you're around, look me up. I'd love to say hi.
Well, I know that I'm going to have to look you up because I'm going to need the insider scoop on the best, the best food truck, the best restaurant. I won't put you on the spot to make you highlight them and get people angry at you that you
Long Beach has a huge food scene. We're a very diverse community. We're one of the most diverse in the United States, which we love. And so you can find just about anything to eat here, and it's fantastic. So yeah. Lots of good places to eat.
It's going to be great. Well, thank you, Tom, for sharing your life, your leadership journey, and your insights. Really a pleasure today.
My pleasure, too. It's great. Thanks for what you do.
The stories we share here on the Halting Winter Podcast remind us where government really lives, locally, right here in our cities, our counties, the communities that shape our everyday life. If today's conversation resonated with you, please subscribe and share the episode to help these stories reach others. I'm Seth Winterhalter. You can find me at HaltingWinter.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.